Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just do another live stream. Just wanted to, just pop by digitally, see if anybody's around to chat. Um, I figure the way I might do this to begin is just think of a chapter in the Bible to read and just go through it and then give my commentary on it. And then if people have questions on it or anything else, just feel free to shoot me a message in the chat box, or if you want to dialogue audibly, just let me know and I can send you guys a link. So I'm going to start by reading John chapter 9. I'm just going to, how do I do this? Well, I normally read King James, but I'll just read English Standard just to make the language a little bit easier. So I just wanted to use this chapter to kind of talk about some things related to the flat earth debate and possibly stuff related to end times. So John chapter 9, and the title is Jesus Heals a Man Born Blind. John chapter 9 reads, as he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud and said to him, go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Hey, ETT, what's up, man? How's it going, dude? I'm just reading John chapter 9. I just figure I'll start off these live streams with a chapter in the Bible, and then if there are people around, we can chat, or else I'll just leave it at that. I'll just do lessons based on the chapter. And so I've just read the first 7 verses, and so I'm on John chapter 9 verse 8 now. And so up to here, this is an incredible thing. I think it's amazing that the disciples asked, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? So there's this notion of judgment being passed down from generation to generation. So for those people who are very staunchly against reincarnation being in the Bible, I understand, your hesitation, because it's a very, very new concept that is not taught, at all, really, in mainstream Christianity. Yeah, I'll check it out, ETT. Let me know what the title is and stuff. So, it's not an easy thing to digest. I think it's a little bit easier, much more digestible for someone like myself coming from a Hindu background. And it's not even that, my parents kind of shoved Hinduism down my throat, but it's a very sort of local concept to Hinduism, is the concept of reincarnation. And so, again, this verse is not necessarily speaking directly to reincarnation, but it is speaking about sins being passed down generationally. And I think it's interesting that Jesus doesn't respond. A lot of things that we hear from Jesus, or Yahushua, we call him, is a lot of things that he doesn't say encodes a lot of information that I think is not taught, to be honest. So here he didn't say that doesn't happen. He just said it. He refers specifically to this man. It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. And so, in my opinion, these kind of things these kind of things, these interactions, these people, all of us are characters essentially in God's movie to to learn essentially about him, and why he's doing it and what his ultimate end plan. No one knows, and no one really has a good guess, to be honest. And it's okay to not know. And that's one of the main points that I want to talk about in this chapter, is that it's okay to not know. And I think the fall earth, flat earth debate is becoming more and more clear, the position that the two sides take, is that you pretty much have to know everything. And that's one of the sort of requirements as well in evangelical Christianity, is that if you don't have a stance on something, if you don't have a breakdown, as the Hebrew Israelites say, or if you don't have like a doctrinal label, if you're in the sort of mainstream Christian world, then you're flaky. You're like a postmodern. You're just a hippie. You're you don't love God. It can go to that extent. As far as the way people like to label and compartmentalize things in the world that we live in right now. And so there's a lot of things we just don't know, and it's okay. And there's even things that Jesus in the flesh didn't know, like the timing of the end times. So even he, being perfect and able to heal, was humble enough to state that. And it's an amazing thing. And so, hey, Vlad on Flat Earth, what's up, man? Hey, realistically speaking, what's up, dude? I'm not sure if I remember us interacting. He's asking me to read Jeremiah. Yeah, I'll read Jeremiah 31 right after this. And then I'll get to John 21 too, man. But yeah, thanks for coming by, guys. So okay, so we're at this point where the disciples are asking Jesus about sins being passed down from generation to generation, and Jesus does not get upset, and say, that's not the way it works. That would never happen. Why would you say that? I suspect in other interactions that we don't get to read, he was teaching them things. It's not like lights, camera, action. The Bible's being recorded, so let's talk. No, like they spoke. These are friends, and just God being able to call other people friends is a mystery that also we can't wrap our head around. But these are his confidants, and so I suspect that they've asked him stuff like this, and it's not an outlandish question, and it's a very important question, and I think it's a very deep question, because it gets to the very crux of like why there is sin, why there's brokenness, why are people born this way, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so Kizinti is asking, so was the guy made blind just so Jesus could heal him? And I would say what I'm getting at more broadly is that we are all instruments of a movie and a narrative that God is using to teach us things about one another, and then ultimately of himself, and his purpose for that, and what it's going to ultimately lead to. We have very narrow slits to look through, but we don't have the full picture, and that's okay. And so we are all ultimately here to if you think of it sort of spiritually, to be healed in this way, and then be a witness to that healing, even if we're not born blind. And so Jesus speaks of the spiritual nature of being born blind right at the end of this chapter, and it's an incredibly powerful point that he makes. So reading on, John chapter 9, verse 8 then reads, the neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar were saying, is this not the man who used to sit and beg? Some said, it is he. Others said, no, but he is like him. And I have a feeling that, once somebody is blind and now they can see physically, their vibe will change, for lack of a better word. They obviously will probably potentially look different, their eyes, if their eyes were closed. But the person would probably have a different sort of presence after he is healed. In the very least, I'm sure he was incredibly excited after verse says, so he went and washed and came back seeing. I've never gone through something like that. in the physical, but I want to relate it to flat Earth as well, that we are undergoing this in a spiritual way, where God is taking the blinders off, so to speak, and we're able to see him spiritually. And so that's why I think some people might say, you know, it looks like him, but, you know, they weren't sure. So they said to him, then how were your eyes opened? He answered, the man called Jesus, notice how he calls him a man, called Jesus, made mud and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed and received my sight. They said to him, where is he? He said, I don't know. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. So the Pharisees again asked him how he had received his sight. And he said to them, he put mud on my eyes and I washed and I see. Some of the Pharisees says, this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. So we can already see that the spirit of Antichrist was in the world at this time. And, you know, there's a good verse in the book of John that talks about that, where the Antichrist has been in the world, you know, and then God is the Most High is the author of the left and the right-hand side. So he is creating this resistive energy to the truth, and he is creating the ultimate truth, the ultimate light, Jesus Christ or Yahushua as well. And so we can see already, you know, that these Pharisees are stating that this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. So very, very minor point that they're using to dismiss, you know, the miracles and the ministry of Jesus. But others said, how can a man who is a sinner do such things? That's a logical point, you know. And so we know that the left-hand side is controlled opposition. We see that now in our time, that all the political leaders, all these NASA, all these people that are pushing lies, atheists, all that, they're controlled opposition. They are antichrist, and hopefully they don't stay in that. But if they do remain in that, the mark of the beast, that is antichrist. All these things that go against, you know, mercy, love, righteousness, faith, truth, knowledge, creativity, all these kind of things, the eternal, the spirit world, those are all antichrist, and they've been in the world in Jesus's time, as proven here, and ultimately proven in its full manifestation in his time by his grisly death. But others said, how can a man who is a sinner do such things? That's a very logical point. And there was division among them. And so again, we can see even in that time, there was division, just like there's division in the church today. So they said again to the blind man, what do you say about him since he has opened your eyes? He said, he is a prophet. So this is amazing. He went from a man to being a prophet. So I give this guy a lot of credit, because as you'll read, you know, aligning yourself with Jesus in this time was not like, you know, a very good decision for your popularity. And so he went from calling him a man to now upgrading him to a prophet, you know. And again, he's probably still trying to like wrap his head around what happened and how amazing it is that he can now see. And you can imagine, like, just think for a moment, like being physically blind, even like imagine closing your eyes for a week and, you know, just having to live for the whole week with your eyes closed, and then opening your eyes and looking around and like trying to piece together what happened for the last week. You know, your apartment might be messy, or, you know, whatever, all these things, you know, and the person gets to see what he looks like for the first time. It's an incredible thing. You know, you can imagine this person is still shook up. So Jesus got an upgrade. He went from man to prophet. And that's a bold thing for a person to say that, because obviously we Christians believe that Jesus is God, but his words are prophetic as well. So he is God. He is prophet. He is a prophet. He is a minister. He's a friend to those that he brings into his quarters, and you know, he's a servant. He actually would clean the feet of people around him. So these are all things that are, again, very, very difficult to wrap our head around. But we keep going here. So the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they called the parents of the man who had received his sight and asked them, is this your son who you say was born blind? How does he now see? So here we go. Now we have the skeptics. These are the quote unquote atheists of our generation, you know, the people that do not accept the supernatural intervention, the people that, you know, need a earthly explanation, you know, no, this guy's really not, he can't see, he's tricking us. all this kind of stuff. They're going to come up with every kind of explanation that will, again, is consistent with their ministry, is to be anti-Christ, anti-God, anti-spirit, anti-truth, instead of just worshiping God and acknowledging that this person was born blind and now he can see. His parents answered, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but how he now sees we do not know, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him, he is of age, he will speak for himself." So here we can again see that no one's like running to become best buddies with Jesus or align themselves with him. It's not popular, you know, and I think we're seeing this now. It's not popular to be a truth seeker, to be a defender of evil, of oppression, and all this kind of stuff. The louder you speak, the more we will all be isolated. And you know, again, that's been around for, looks like at least a couple thousand years, and so it's not a new thing. And so we have to take some comfort in that, you know, that people before us have been doing the same thing. His parents said these things because they feared the Jews. Here's the reason why, like I was just saying. His parents said these things because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone should confess Jesus to be Christ, he was to be put out of the synagogue. Therefore, his parents said, "He is of age, ask him." And so this again just shows that this is not logical to have, you know, people like this who will be against someone being healed. And so this to me is further proof that God is behind this. The Heavenly Father, the Creator, is the author of the left-hand side and the right-hand side, because there's no reason for people to care that much. You know, it's like, whatever, you were just healed, you know, just move on. You know, we're still going to tax you. We still own you, yada, yada, yada. And so it doesn't make sense. And so, you know, again, this to me, the controlled opposition is of God. And to me, it's becoming very, very, very obvious in this day as well, because of the way that they operate in a consistently antichrist way. So for the second time, they called the man who had been born blind and said to him, "Give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner." He answered, "Whether he is a..." So here now they're actually going one step further and calling Jesus Christ a sinner. And he answered, "Whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see." This is an incredible thing, and this is the kind of main point I want people to take from these verses, is that all he did was he said what happened. You know, he didn't like exaggerate. And our society right now is very much one that, you know, almost like requires us to exaggerate, you know, in job interviews or just in dating, relationships, and family stuff and all that, you know. And he just didn't exaggerate. He just said, you know, I don't know whether he's a sinner or not. And he didn't come with like, you know, Jesus loves me and he's for me and will do everything for me and yada, yada, yada. He didn't come with that madness. And I have the 100% truth, which some groups say it's blasphemous, you know. And so this is a man who is just healed. And he said, whether he is a sinner, I don't know. And that's true. He doesn't know. No one knows. The only person that could rightfully make a statement like that is the Most High himself, because he's the one who judges what is a sin and what is not. So that's not for man to decide, because man did not come up with the concept of sin anyway. But it's a true statement. And so he just said it plainly, you know. And so I think this is a point that we can take away from this and apply it to even flat earth. It's like, it's okay if you don't know all the physics and the quantum mechanics and the Higgs boson and all this stuff that God has equipped the ballers with to defend their stance, which is an atheist stance. We don't need to say that, you know. We could literally just be like, what I do know is that I don't feel like I'm spinning. And when I look up, it looks like the sun and the moon are moving and I'm not. We're not. That's it, you know. And it looks like the sky's blue, and it looks like if I were to keep, you know, going up, I would be able to touch it, whatever it is. And that's okay. You know, that could be enough of a defense. And that view is consistent with the Bible. What a coincidence. And so that's okay, you know. And I think that all this other stuff, again, are people that are anti-Christ. They are against God. If you ask a baller who is a Christian baller certain things, you're going to get eventually, they might actually even agree on the mark of the beast being the RFID chip. They'll struggle or will not want to talk about America being Babylon or Jesus being a dark-skinned man. So like there's all these things that like they'll eventually their theology will fall apart. And so I'm reaffirming to everybody who's listening is that they are controlled opposition, and they are antichrist. And so we just have to be aware of that. Okay, so let's keep going. And then they said, he answered, they said to him, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I have told you already, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Now he's getting impatient with them. Like, imagine going up to like the FBI coming to your door and like asking you multiple questions, and you're like getting irritated by the FBI or the CIA. You're just like, I've already told you and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? So he's getting kind of anxious or impatient. Do you also want to become his disciple? So this guy's getting very, very bold. This is amazing. And they reviled him, saying, you are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, we do not know where he comes from. The man answered, why? This is an amazing thing. You do not even know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, God listens to him. Never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. They answered him, you were born in utter sin, and would you teach us? And they cast him out. So, they dismiss his testimony. This guy is like singing a song, and this to me is where the Spirit intercedes. He was, in my opinion, he had to have been taught those things in that moment to say that, because not just that it's very eloquent, but that it's exactly true. And again, he might have known all these things already, but I suspect this also is a fulfillment of the verses where Jesus tells us that when we're brought before the council and the courts and all that, God will be speaking to us in those moments when there is a larger captive audience. So that's an amazing thing that he said, and it's true. Like it's you basically have to make a decision that either what happened there was deeply, deeply evil or from God. And there's no signs of it being evil. And so he's pointing that out to them. And then they say you were born in utter sin. So here we know that they don't know this person, and they don't know why he was blind, because that's not true that he was born in utter sin. Because like Jesus said at the beginning that when the disciples asked him, why was this person born blind? He said, this man or his parents. They asked, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And he said, it was not that this man sinned or his parents. So it's he was not born in sin, according to their theological statement, which is untrue. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and having found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. So this is an amazing thing. And so basically, he's talking about the spiritual aspects of being blind and not being blind now. He is moving to the spirit world, which he always does whenever he interacts with people. And so he has a new friend, a new disciple here in 35. Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. And so this is a powerful thing, so all those people who claim to see and to know truth and like all this kind of stuff, you were born in sin, yada, yada, yada. That's why we cannot speak that type of language for things we don't know. We don't know the judgment that is happening to people or ourselves. It's too complicated. And so it's very, very important for us to use that type of language. And it's okay to default to, I don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, are we also blind? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say we see, your guilt remains. So he's saying that once you claim to see, to know all these kind of things, you're now exposing yourself to scrutiny, and not a good position to be in, from what Jesus is saying here. And so to me, this is a very, very powerful chapter. it covers a lot of very, very important concepts and things that, are sort of written in between the lines, so to speak. But, this is a powerful thing where a person is now receiving sight and, gives his testimony and then ultimately becomes, a disciple. So I will, gives his testimony. Sorry. I'll read some of these verses, guys. Sorry, I got behind in the chat here. So, realistically speaking, just curious, what do you want me to read Jeremiah for? I have no issues doing that, but I'll pull it up. So I'll pull that up. Sorry, I just got I got sidetracked there on the live stream. So sorry, Jeremiah 31, 29 to 30. Can you guys just confirm that you can still hear me? Sorry, my computer started like hiccuping. You guys can just let me know that you can still hear and see. Okay, cool. So Jeremiah 31, 29, 30. In those days they shall no longer say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Each man who eats sour grapes, his teeth shall be set on edge. I haven't read this in a while. Let's see. In those days they shall no longer say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. That's interesting. I think that's partially talking about the connection between fathers and their offspring, and them sort of quote unquote reaping the rewards or pain of the sins of their forefathers. And so I'm not sure if this is for everybody to get. What I suspect, and again, this is just the spirit that's interacting with me. It may be incorrect, but what I believe is possible is that the 144,000 or the elect are sort of sleeping in the bed that they made. And so they are, those who are the sort of original group. And then, based on their actions and all that, they're being sort of interleaved into future generations. And then they're, living out, their judgment, and again, I do believe that these things are inferring things related to reincarnation, because I don't believe that an individual would reap the pain of somebody else's decisions. Yeah, this sort of generational passing down, whether you think it's reincarnation or not, will eventually stop. And so we are definitely anxious for that day, and for that day to come soon. ETT, man, I'll get to that in 1 second, dude. I'm going to read the verse that you asked for, just to see what was there. John 21:25. Let's see what's going on with that. John 21:25 says, "Now there are also many other things that Jesus did, were every one of them to be written, I suppose that the world itself could not contain." Yeah, exactly. Man, that's perfect, dude. Thanks for that. This is John 21:25. "Now there are also many other things that Jesus did, were every one of them to be written, I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written." So, and that's by design. You know, if we knew a lot of things, or, you know, certain things about the spirit world, or even if Jesus or in the Bible said the earth is flat, then everybody would read that and be like, well, why are these other millions and billions of people saying that it's a ball? You know, we would be like, what's going on here? And so it would be alarming, you know. And so I think things are left ambiguous on purpose. And then you have to read between the lines sometimes, and to be able to, you know, get truth from the Bible. But again, I think, and I've said this many times, that there's so much confusion and stuff in the world that it's kind of making it easier to like figure out what's true. You know, it's like just like the ball earthers more and more, their vibe, it's like comical to me now. It's like I ask them about stuff about central banking, you know, and like the evils of the world. Just give me the top 3 things that you think are evil. They won't list a single thing. And so the only issue with that, that differentiates a quote unquote Christian or a person who has a connection to the Bible, is that not only can we list off more than 3 things that are evil in the world today, we can list off 3, probably thousands and thousands, but a true spiritual person, a person who understands the Bible, would understand that those evils exist within us as well. And so if your pastor or preacher or leader is not doing that, don't listen to them. You know, and if I ever do that, or if I'm not doing that enough, feel free to call it out. But that's the difference. You know, there's a lot of channels out there who are teaching truth, and you know, deceptions, and financial deceptions, and then ball earth deceptions, and all these different things. But ultimately, a person who should be teaching the Bible and is connected to God, in the very least, needs to be calling out the sin in their own life as well. And then that at least gives them a chance of having, you know, God speak through them. Okay, so let's see what, just quickly scan through. So Brenda says, Earth ain't flat, morons. Okay, so that's another thing that is, again, making it very, very obvious that is a good, I'm glad that that person wrote that, is that smart people don't talk like that, you know. And it's like, I've been around like very, very, very intelligent people in grad school. They don't talk like that, you know. They know that they're smarter, and it's almost awkward. They don't want to like amplify it, because that's just, it draws more attention to themselves. And then arrogance is applauded in this world throughout human history, but not like obvious, overt arrogance. Like even the Rothschilds, like they're not on like TV, you know, with like gold, you know, diamonds and jewelry saying, oh, we own you guys, we own the central banks, you know, you morons and all. They don't say stuff like that, you know. They don't no one does that kind of stuff, you know. Like the smart people are smart. That's just a fact, you know. And like that's just, they know it. And also intuitively they should know that they didn't like do that, you know. They didn't architect their genius before they were born. So I'm glad she said that, because we want to be ridiculed, because it reaffirms that what we believe is true, you know. Just like the same as this interaction in John 9 with this blind individual who could now see. The ridicule sort of confirms that you're onto something, unless it's just completely ridiculous. But no one would really like ridicule you if it was just completely absurd. Like they wouldn't come into like your live streams and say you're an idiot and stuff. So it's further confirmation. And again, for me, the main confirmation that I know that the earth is flat is the financial deception, because the financial deception is obvious and it's mainstream. And if I were to have to pick between 2 shapes of the earth just based on the financial deception, which again is obvious and provable and pretty much everybody knows it, I'd have to be a flat earther, even if I didn't know anything about math, science, or physics and chemistry and biology or anything really. You just have to pick the flat earth side right away. And so again, it's reaffirmed by comments like Brenda coming in here with absolutely no nothing interesting to say, but just, who is the mind of God? You? Question mark. Ha ha ha. Earth ain't flat, morons. So this is what we're dealing with. I mean, this is like comedy now. So, you know, we need to start, I'm going to start moving on with like, how do we deal with things knowing that the earth is flat? So what is the financial deception? So that is just that central banking, the way it's done now is evil, because new money is being printed, but the people who are benefiting from it, who are charging interest on it, usury, are not the people who have done the work to infuse that new money. You know, it's not wrong. Let's say if you've worked, let's say, you know, like 5 of us get together and we build Kizin Kennedy a house. You know, 5 of us should get like tokens, you know, to say, to log the work that we've done to build that house. And then it's not wrong. The Bible is against it, but let's just speak from an earthly perspective, that you to go use that money and you charge interest. Say, hey, I'm going to give you $1 now, but like, you know, next year you got to give me, you know, $1.10 because, you know, you borrowed this. That's up to a person to do that, and the person on the other end, if they want to do that. If they don't want to work and you know, they just want to borrow the $1 and see if they can do something better with it in the meantime and get better returns than the 10 cents they have to pay at the end of the year. That's just up to 2 people to decide, you know, if they want to do that. But what's going on now is the money printing is, first of all, excessive, and then that's one thing. So infusing the world with an incredible amount of credit, and then the nefarious part of that, the evil part of that, the satanic part of that, is charging interest on money that person who pushed those buttons at the central banks did not earn. And so there's a mystery as far as, you know, the central banks and who owns them and who are the shareholders of all these major banks. You know, some of the banks are obviously owned by the public, but the central bank in and of itself, the Fed, has a balance sheet and they make money, you know. And there was a video recently where the Fed chairman is talking about how the Fed makes money and credit spreads and all these things that they earn money, you know, and that's how they pay their people. And so it's a profit-seeking institution at its very core. And they're doing it by charging interest on money that's printed and expanding the money supply. And that's obvious now. Like, it's not even like hidden, you know. It's just very clear, you know, that this whole scheme is evil, you know. It's like, and it's, again, further, it's even more evil by once you're a flat earther, you know that the whole thing's evil because people are being charged thousands and thousands of dollars to go and learn things that are not true, you know. And so they're being enslaved financially and intellectually about things that are antichrist, really anti-God. And so this is not conspiracy theory anymore. I'm sorry to break it to anybody out there who still thinks that this financial system is neutral. It's not. It's deeply evil, and there's religious and non-religious people who are calling it out. And I find it kind of peculiar that a lot of non-religious people seem to be speaking out about it more. And so I think the mark of the beast ultimately will be the thing that will decide who are God's children really, you know. And I think that's when we all will find out where our position is with God. And we pray that God doesn't make us dumb in those last moments if it comes out and take it. So there is a very obvious financial deception, and you will not get a ball earther talking about it with any level of seriousness. And I was kind of half jokingly asking Conspiracy Cats and Simon Dan and these more well-known ballers to talk about central banking. They're like, oh, that's boring. Are you serious? You know, like as if it doesn't affect anything, or it's like a waste of their time to talk about the very mechanism that fuels the entire world, printed money, digital fiat money. You know, that's just boring for them. So that we know that they're gatekeepers. It's becoming very obvious. And the earth is flat. You know, we are not moving. If I drilled a hole down beneath my feet, the drill bit's not gonna hit the head of someone on the other side of the world. You know, people in China and India are just over there. You know, they're not down below us, walking upside down on a ball earth. Sorry, man, I forgot. I'll get to that in 1 second, because then I'm gonna just go to ETT. Sorry, he asked a question about how much money do you have saved up for when we have to get out when the chip comes? My plan: sell all my stuff and live in my car. Then when it is mandatory, run into the woods. Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh at you. I just kind of find it funny. But Brenda, she doesn't know this. Yeah, Brenda is probably just a troll. Might not even be a human. Honestly, it might just be a computer program. So don't even write a message to her. Getting up at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and make 8 to 10. That's slavery. Even back in Egypt, we got paid for our labor. Esau just taking the chains. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's slavery. You know, like it's obvious now. And I think the reason, again, that we're even more sure that we're in the end times is that the slavery is now enslaving even this quote unquote elite, you know, in the upper class. And so they have to lie on conference calls and make up stories. Everything's fine, this and that, you know. So it's not like it's everywhere. So to me, like, you could think that this is just a coincidence, you know, and all that, but these quote unquote CEOs and the elite, they have to like get on conference calls and lie all the time, you know. Like I'm hearing people, person after person, say the economy is great. We're not in a recession, not even close, not next year, maybe the year after, this and that. They know exactly that we've been in a recession for a long time. We're in a depression. What is the definition of a depression? When people are depressed, you know, it's like that is the best definition of a depression, is when the people who are working, quote unquote working, are depressed. The American people are depressed. Like, let's be honest. Like, yeah, they may not say it publicly, but they're depressed. Like, they are not, you know, being creative. They're not being paid fairly, like ETT saying $8 to $10 an hour. With respect to how much money is in circulation, $8 to $10 an hour is not even a grain of sand. With all the sand that's on the earth, it's nothing. It's like absolutely nothing. And so it's just it's ridiculous. And so the enslavement is happening from top to bottom. And be very, very clear, if you remember anything from this live stream, God is enslaving you. You know, don't think it's some boogeyman, Satan, or ETT likes to call them Esau or whatever. We're past that understanding now. We have moved past that. It's God. We're past that. So, okay. I will now go to your question about plan to sell all my stuff. So ETT, I think this is where, man, you got to like get back to the basics. First of all, Jesus Christ or Yahushua was virgin born. So I don't think you're on the right track on that and a few things. So get away from that, because it's not true. Jesus Christ, who you and I call Yahushua to refer to the dark skin Jesus, he was virgin born. Okay, like it's obvious. You know, you have to understand that. You know, for the spirit that is dealing with you is get away from that, whatever that name of that spirit is. And so the only reason I bring that out, I'm not trying to call you out unnecessarily, is that my understanding is that the first thing that will kick off the end times is the rapture of the so-called elect. And the reason I'm very, very confident of that is just that nothing else could be big enough, quote unquote, big enough to institute the mark of the beast. You know, nothing. Like, there's no market crash, there's no false flag, there's no war, nothing. It has to be something out of this world, literally out of this entire world, and it has to be on the level of the entire world, and it has to be something that will create great confusion worldwide. So the 9/11 won't cut it, and I'm not trying to be rude to like people that died. It won't cut it. 9/11 won't cut it. A world war, a bombing won't cut it. None of that. It won't do it. You know, it's, yeah, the 144,000, I believe at least the 144,000 and potentially more of God's elect will be taken away. And then that will be the storyline to sort of kick off the end times. And in my opinion, the 144,000 would be suicidal now anyway, because you can't live, a person can't live in this world right now and obey the law, you know. And this is where I know that GMS do not have the truth, and a lot of Hebrew Israelites, a lot of people on earth don't have the truth. And I'm not trying to be rude or puff my chest like I have some extremely incredible insight or whatever, but if a person is totally honest and actually cares about the Bible, and I can't say I care a lot, I obviously care enough to like read it and share my insights, but if a person takes the Bible very, very, very seriously, and the elect would, the 144,000, you can't operate in an environment like this and obey any of the law, because you're really required to be, in the very least, a homosexual spiritually, because you're working for your enemy. You're working for a beast. You're working for a system that the Bible proclaims is a beast. And so that is not something even the non-righteous are complaining. And I'm not even, again, saying that someone's better than somebody else, but even the non-righteous are complaining about this time. So the 144,000, to me, the only reason that they're really raptured is it's just easier for them instead of killing themselves, you know, which is, to me, the only righteous thing that a person can do living in this time. So I'm not recommending anybody go and take their own life. That's not for me to decide, but I'm giving you an understanding of a person who takes the Bible seriously and then has to operate in the world that we live in now, and in particular in America. It's non-creative, it's evil, it's effeminate, which the Bible says the effeminate will not enter the kingdom. So you're required to be effeminate. When you go to work and you see injustices and you're not allowed to speak up and call them out, that's a form of being effeminate. That's a homosexual vibration. So anybody who comes across stating that, oh, I'm a man, I'm like tough guy, all this kind of stuff, but then they go around Monday morning and bend over the corporate world, that's someone who's not connected to God in that moment, in the very least. So don't listen to people like that. There are no tough guys in this world right now. Even the CEOs, they're not tough guys. They can get fired immediately. CEOs are getting turned over at GE every year. So, you know, this system is like that. And again, God designed it. Look what God did to his own son. He set up opposition and set him up with a grisly death on the cross. Our understanding of what happened to Jesus Christ. And so that's the kind of God that we're dealing with. And so it's just the knob is turned up in this in the end times. There is evil everywhere, but it's covert, it's subtle. Because if evil were just explicit, like people were just, you know, getting beaten over the head and raped and molested in the streets, like no one would live, like righteous or not righteous. So it's still subtle, but it's everywhere, you know. And there's very much a homosexual vibration on earth. And I'm not necessarily saying this just to call out people who are homosexual. I think I've done a video on that. People can come out of that, and you shouldn't use heterosexual or homosexual lust to hold you back from God in this day and age, because I feel we're at the end. You know, to me, the end is either very close, less than 5 years, like I've said, or it's way down the road, in the sense that none of the elect are on earth right now. And then God will put the elect on the earth down the road. Like, I'm talking way down the road, because then a new Babylon would need to be raised up, and all these storylines would need to be reinvigorated. So to me, 5 years is plenty. The reason I'm very, very confident with 5 years is I can't imagine a righteous person, 144,000 being on earth right now, co-signing what's going on in the world right now, and being able to function, you know. And it's like, the lies are not even just lies to make money. They're just stupid, you know, dumb. Like, the lies are just this border wall and all this stuff. It's just, it doesn't make sense. you know, and so the lies are just idiotic, and then you're required to sin, you're required to lie, you're required to laugh at jokes that aren't funny. It's just it's not for the 144,000, and it's becoming obvious it's not even for people who don't even care about God, to be honest. So how much more are these 144,000 crying out? And in my opinion, they would be on the brink of suicide. How much worse can Babylon get if it's not America? And you got people looking 10 years in the future. Yeah, exactly. I think, like, you know, it's a joke, you know, and it's like I posted a video recently, last night, I think, with Charlie Munger, who's one of the Berkshire Hathaway, like, elder statesmen, so to speak. And you know, he's talking, they're asking him, you know, about, you know, America and the debt, and he's like, you know, it's every nation comes to an end. You know, you should watch the whole video. The sound quality is not good because I'm, you know, replaying it on my phone, but just search for that video and listen to what he's saying. And if you look at Charlie Munger and you don't see, like, Satan, like, that's Satan, you know, like Bezos. If you look at Jeff Bezos and you don't see Satan, there's something, you're not spiritual. I'm sorry to tell you that, you know, like, you just see their eyes all like, it just looks like they have, like, you know, spirits running all in their brain, you know, and like the amount of oppression that Jeff Bezos has caused on people, hourly workers, many of them Israelites. You know, again, he's been put in that position to do it, but, you know, that is Satan. Would the 144,000 really have that much effect? That is a drop in the bucket by today's population. I think first of all, I don't think all of them are on Earth right now. So you're right. It's going to be a subset of that. And no one's counting, you know, it's like, it's just going to be people raptured, and it's going to be like in the air, you know, people will see it. And, you know, there's verses to support that, where these elect, their bodies will be transformed in the twinkling of an eye. So there will be it'll be supernatural. Something will happen, in my opinion, has to happen supernaturally. And, you know, no one's counting, you know, I understand that number's there, but again, that number represents different spirits, and that in and of itself, we can't kind of wrap our head around. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a significant number of people. Again, this is just the spirit that's interacting with me. I might be wrong. Again, the Bible might not be true. The mark of the beast might not come out, you know. Again, I don't know. I have to be humble, just like that person, the blind person in John. I am blind, you know, and so I see now because of flat earth more, but I don't see everything. But that's to me the only logical way that it could play out. I have $0 in my wallet, like hundreds of millions worldwide. Here you got YouTubers like Mr. Beast spending millions a day on bull. I don't know who Mr. Beast is. I don't think I subscribe to another channel, How to Beast, which is like, he's like a kind of a relationship guru and stuff, but I'll look up who Mr. Beast is. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much money in the world. It's unsustainable. The amount of money these athletes are getting for, again, work that is not beneficial. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, entertainment's not important, but it's a disproportionate amount of money going to these different buckets. And then if there's not something pumping that, like a central bank, then it can't continue, you know, because the money is being pumped in the system, but the money is not circulating enough or at all. And then so once that happens, once that pumping stops and that circulation stops, like ETT saying, like him and a lot of people don't have money, chaos erupts. And so this is what I feel we're on the precipice of now. If Christianity was the truth, what about Matthew 7:13, 2nd Esdras? They won't even read Esdras, so that's, yeah, they won't even go to that. 2.4 billion Christians in the world, so only less than 1% would be saved, shows it's nonsense. Yeah, man, it's like, we know that Christianity is a joke now because they won't even talk about Jesus' skin color. I have other people who I think might be Israelites. They won't even talk about Jesus being dark skinned. So forget about the chip, forget about flat earth, forget about Babylon, forget about Sodom and Gomorrah. spiritually Egypt. Forget about all these other concepts, like that's not even, that's out the window. Forget, like they will not even acknowledge that all the prophets are dark-skinned men, and not even necessarily that the so-called Negroes are the Jews, but just that Jesus was dark-skinned. They're like, oh, it doesn't matter, and like stuff. So again, we know that we're onto the truth when people react like that. Jesus Christ, Yahushua, was a dark-skinned man with woolly hair. Get over it. It took me a couple of days. I had to like scratch my head and be like, yeah, just logically it makes sense. It's like God would not put his son on earth with light skin that would get singed by the sun. That doesn't make sense. And so he's a dark-skinned man, and the Bible says he's very, very dark-skinned. So again, if you have issues with that, get over it, or the Bible's not for you. You might as well not even read it. You have said on other streams that if the beast does not arrive in 5 years, you would burn the Bible and give up flat earth. Yeah, that's for that reason. And I'll be totally honest, I don't plan to be here for 5 years. I don't. Like, I'm just not the type that vibes well with corporate America. I think I have about a couple years of savings that I could live off of. 1 year comfortably, 2 years if I live like a pauper. And I don't want to, honestly, like, just to be totally honest. So I kind of what's that called, where you like sort of I sort of built in a hedge, I guess, or I sort of put in a buffer that I knew that the statement wouldn't matter. I will not be burning a Bible because I don't see myself being here for 5 years. But let's just say that somehow that happens, that 5 years from now, 2024, that the mark of the beast does not come out and is made mandatory. And I see no movement towards that at all, like in the near future or within like a couple months or soon, or no, like it just goes stale. Yeah, without a doubt, the Bible, I would recommend people go away from the Bible and then be very apologetic that they wasted their time on it, because if the God of any religion doesn't have a narrative or a reason for the amount of evil and perversion in the world that's going on right now, because it's so worldwide, that's the biggest thing that makes a world of difference for me, literally, is that, and pardon the pun, is that the evil is worldwide now. It's not in little pockets. It's like global. It's like global in the sense that it's around the world. I don't want to get the ballers too excited with that term. Global meaning like worldwide, and it's coordinated, and it's honestly stupid. It just doesn't make sense for people to have fake shootings, have all this evil, if it's not for the end times. It just doesn't make sense. So again, there's a slim chance that it's just them just being random, but that would seem very, very odd. And the Bible says that there will be confusion. So it's explaining to us why it's so confusing, because it says that there will be wars, rumors of wars, evil, boasters, lovers of self, false prophets, worldwide deception, all that kind of stuff. It says that, but it also says knowledge will increase, which I feel is happening right now, largely due to flat earth. Yeah, he's dark skinned for sure. It's just the reality. And this is not even a racial thing. Light skinned people and dark skinned people are invited to worship God. There's no mark that, physical mark that prevents you from worshiping God, except the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is the only physical mark in the Bible that will prevent you from having worship be acceptable to God. And in fact, you are against God, and he's going to destroy you or me if I take that. So like I said, the only mark, physical mark, it's not your complexion, it's not your hair, your height, who your dad is, who your mom is, whether you're a pastor's kid or not. It is the only physical mark in this generation, which I believe is the end times, is the mark of the beast. You are unacceptable to God if you take it, because you are a person who wants to essentially take a mark instituted by evil people, pedophiles and all that, to stay in hell longer. Like that's, no one wants to be around people like that, just practically speaking. If you're that faithless, go be faithless. You know, we just want to be separated from you, and this will take spiritual intervention, because the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, and so the wicked can have their chip and stay there. That's no problem. You know, stay there. It's totally fine. Yeah, the fake shootings. I mean, this Aurora shooting recently may or may not be real. I mean, go to Russian Vids' channel. He breaks it down better than nobody else that I've seen. And so I've done a couple videos on it, but you got to be careful with the language, because, you know, God is pacing the amount of truth that comes out. And so right now, with all this YouTube censorship and all that kind of stuff, you know, God does not want the truth out fully. He, again, is pacing it, and he decides who receives it and who doesn't. And so, you know, Jesus said in that verse, in that chapter that I read, that he is the light of the world, and that is true. He is truth. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And so I feel he does live on amongst those, his children in this day, those who pursue the truth. And no matter what that truth is, if you are uncomfortable with Jesus being dark skinned, even though it's written in the Bible in many places, you don't love God. Sorry to break that to you. If you don't want to worship God because he's a dark skinned person, God does not want you to worship him. You know, that's just the way it is. Where are you going to go when the mark of the beast is made mandatory worldwide? Still alive, what would you do? 2 or 3 others? If the mark of the beast is anywhere, like if I don't know how it would happen, but if there was like a notice that I had to like go to like a Walgreens and like get a chip to stay alive, I'm going to the nearest bridge and jumping off. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not staying alive in a place that requires me to put a chip in my hand, in a place that I already don't want to be. And then I know the Bible's true. Like, I already know it's pretty much true just because of flat earth. But I don't know. Like, to me, it's a bad idea to try and hang around, because like I said in another video, now you're at the mercy of all the evil people, you know, that are lining up to take a chip. So they're faithless. People who take the chip don't have faith, and it's not even their fault. They don't have faith of an afterlife. You know, they're just doing whatever they need to do to stay alive and prolong their life. And that's not, again, their fault. They just are programmed that way, you know. And if you are, even before taking the chip, if you're effeminate, the Bible says you're not allowed into the kingdom. And in my opinion, everybody on earth is in some way has to be effeminate. So we don't know. God has to like kind of let us, you know, slip in at the end, or just have mercy on us, or just look at, you know, moments where we weren't that way and we stood up for people and we weren't bending over for corporate America. He's going to have to make some concessions, because in my opinion, the whole world has a vibration that is against the law and against the requirements needed to enter into the kingdom of heaven. No, suicide is not against God. Jesus Christ, or Yahushua, effectively committed suicide. He could have defended himself. He even says that he could have called upon angels. He didn't want his disciples to defend him. He walked down an alleyway knowing that in that alleyway someone was going to kill him. And so you could call that a homicide, which it was as well, but it was also a form of suicide. So again, that's not for everybody to understand. I think I'm only speaking to maybe not even one person. I'm not even saying this to sound like I'm high and mighty, but this language it goes against the world. But in my opinion, once you believe in God and once you believe in the God of the Bible, you want to be around that God. You know, you want to be around God, because this life is boring. Even if this life was great and I had millions and, you know, women all over me and all that stuff, it's like all those things are temporary. Like at the end of our life, we're not going to be able to look back and, you know, sit there and like re-experience all those highs, those sexual pleasures and all that. Like, we don't get anything from that. So God's people, I suspect lots of us are realizing that this thing is just a waste of time. And in many ways, it's holding us back from having a chance of entering in the kingdom. So we don't even want to be here. So it's like, this is literally like, it's making us more and more degenerate. And it's a bad thing. It's a bad sort of wager, statistical wager, to continue on in this too much longer. But Kazin, don't take that as like, again, God is like pro-suicide. You know, again, this is not for everybody. Everybody has their own path. People have to take care of other people, and God has done that. But I do think the God's elect, the 144,000, would be singing a similar song as to what I'm saying here. What do you think of people who say Jerusalem is mystery Babylon? So Kazin's like, so hang out in bad hoods. I mean, there's going to be a lot of bad hoods soon everywhere across America. I live in downtown Houston. There's homeless people everywhere. If you walk out on the wrong night and homeless person is shot up and they're coked up or heroined up, and they see you and you're a target, and I'm not even necessarily blaming them because we don't know the full story. Your life could end, and I now, like, if, like ETT was saying, if the chip is coming out and it's sort of here, I don't want to be around. Like, I'm not going to politic to stay alive longer in a place that I already know is at that point certifiably done. That is the end times. The Bible's true. It's a wrap. Like, if the chip comes out and it's made mandatory, what other confirmation do you need? The only thing after that is mass death and then the kingdom of heaven being established. So, I mean, what are you waiting for? Do you want to go on a few more dates? You want to, go have some steak, have a couple drinks, what's left after that? There's nothing, it's, that's the end, and may that day come soon. What do you think of people who say Jerusalem is mystery? I've never heard people say that. That's preposterous. But it's obvious, you and I, we don't agree on everything, but you and I think, and more people now know that if we're in the end times, we have to be humble and say that, because we don't know, because even Jesus doesn't know with 100% certainty. I suspect he knows in the spirit world, but let's say he doesn't even know in the spirit world. We don't know for sure. The signs are looking to us very, very obvious that we are, but we know that Mystery Babylon has to be America. What other country is behind all the ridiculous deception and evil and killing worldwide, and the biggest evangelist for homosexual families and all that kind of stuff? I mean, it's like, it's so obvious, it's amazing that God would put, America, attach it to other countries, but who knows what he's going to destroy when that happens. I mean, pretty much when one missile gets shot, it's pretty much over for everybody in the world, because, the economies are so interconnected that if one major country goes down, there's going to be chaos. The transportation, all the mechanisms will, in the very least, slow down, and then so it's going to be bad. What is your opinion on Christians who say it's okay to go against the food laws, like eating pig's flesh? So this is where I want you in particular, ETT, to be careful, especially with the guys at GMS. And I'm not trying to keep lumping you in with them, but God is clowning them, from what I understand, what I can discern, with Ball Earth, but also with their fixation about certain things of the law, which we know that they don't keep, because they are talking about having sex with prostitutes and all that kind of stuff. But the food we're eating is defiled. This goes back to my point, and I'm glad you brought that up. All the food that we're eating is defiled. Even the fruits and all that with the chemicals on it. There's like, people have speculated that the chicken nuggets at McDonald's have like aborted fetuses in them, and I can't say that that's true. I don't know, but I don't know. I have no idea what we're eating. And like, I don't eat at McDonald's regularly anymore, haven't in a while, but I have had McDonald's in my life and in the last year. But who knows what we're eating? So, I mean, again, I'm not saying go eat pig's flesh, go eat pigs, or go eat disgusting food, but the food that's bad is cheap, and it's like accessible, and no one has money, like Tahar going on YouTube and preaching like, oh, go to Whole Foods and eat Whole Foods, brothers and sisters, and all that, when he himself looks like an animal. That's Satan. you know. So don't, I mean, again, follow the law. Yeah, I'm not trying to tell people don't follow the law. That's not at all what I'm, my channel is about. Follow it, you know, go to the details. But now the Hebrews have, you know, really defamed sort of the fringes. You know, no one wants to wear fringes now because I don't want to be associated with IUIC and ISUPK and GMS. They're known Freemasons. You know, it's obvious. You know, so I don't want that. And now they put a stumbling block before people wanting to follow the law, and so God will deal with them appropriately. But yeah, don't eat pig's flesh. You know, don't eat stuff like that you know is not healthy for you. But also at the same time, know that Jesus said, "Food does not defile you." You know, it's like it's our words, it's our actions, and all that kind of stuff. So that should be very, very obvious for anybody who's spiritual. Flat Earth stuff. What's up, man? We're just getting into the nitty gritty, you know, about end times and spirituality and all that. Habakkuk 2, 1-3. Let's see, what's that? I haven't. Habakkuk 2, 1-3. I'll just keep reading English Standard Version, even though we don't really like that. I will take my stand at the watchpost and station myself on the tower and look out to see what he will say to me and what I will answer concerning my complaint. And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It's hastened to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Yeah. So I think that's a very good verse that I've heard the Hebrews, you know, talk about, you know, and recite, and it's a good one for sure. I think the righteous shall live by faith is the title before verse 2 starts, and so you can't be faithful in this world, and so that's the biggest complaint that I think that God's children are waking up to. We can't, you know, and again, that doesn't mean do whatever you want, go eat pork every day and all that, but the reality is the food that we're eating, all of it is defiled, and if your group like GMS preaches that kind of stuff, uses pork as a reason to think that they're better than other people, when I suspect they're probably all eating pork and they don't know it, or some of them are eating pork. You know, it's yeah, because even beef and stuff has pork in it. We don't know. So again, just use discernment. Don't follow people like that. We're not living in those days where you can sit there and follow the law to the jot and tittle. You know, it's we're not in those days. You know, just look out for people. Don't politic to stay alive longer in hell. Don't keep feeding this beast system with your heart or your mind or anything. And, you know, just keep a low profile. And so ETT, if you're posting videos on minimalism and stuff, you know, I think that's good, you know, like just minimalist financially, minimalist really in a person's attachment to this world would be a very powerful message. So I'll watch that video. A few thousand people on YouTube saying Jerusalem is Babylon, and millions around the world think Vatican is Babylon. I know a person who made 5-hour live stream saying, yeah, the deception's becoming so obvious, man. So again, I would just challenge you personally, look into the virgin birth. It's very, very obvious that Jesus was born of a virgin. It's just obvious, you know. The angel came and interceded, and there was a commotion because Mary was pregnant and she never had intercourse. And so that, and, you know, some other things, you know, just look into that. But yeah, I mean, the deceptions are very, very obvious. It's very, very clear now. God is giving truth to certain people. And you can go up to a lot of Christians and they will not look at the verses that talk about Jesus's skin color. They just won't, you know. It's not that they're necessarily evil people. It's not for them. What about food I'm growing myself? Yeah, that's cool, man. Go for it. I think that it's good. If you stay off the grid, that's great. I think that, again, the Bible says that no one will be able to do that permanently. Again, if the Bible comes true with the mark of the beast, because it says all, rich and poor, free and bond, everybody will be dependent on the system. And it's obvious now because you can't even buy the seeds without like a credit card. You can't you can't make the seeds yourself unless you have just a massive stockpile. But eventually you're going to have to interact with this beast system somehow, whether you have to pay your taxes, whether you have to appear in court, whether you get a speeding ticket, whether you need electricity for your farm. There is absolutely no way a person cannot interact with the system and live like a quote unquote full life. I don't see that happening. And if they are, God knows where you are. It's fine. He will find you and rescue you if that person is slated to be taken away. And I think people like that, who are inclined to that, they don't want to live. They don't want to live in this world like hanging from trees like a monkey in the jungle to stay alive. To do what? It's like, what are you going to learn? And I'm not trying to be rude, but like, what's the purpose of that? Like, okay, great, you live in the woods, and you don't have a woman, you don't have like something to do, you don't have like a job or whatever. I mean, like, what purpose is that? We want God to dwell with us now. That's really the ultimate thing to me. It revolves around the end times. Is God has now conditioned, most importantly, his elect to lead, and so he can dwell with us now. Like, we know certain things. We know about one sin equals all sins. We know to be humble. We know to be generous. We know to not hoard. We know to not be arrogant. We know to like be kind. We know to forgive even our enemies, even if we don't, and it's not easy. We know these things now, and that we want God to dwell with us and teach us more. Give us productive things to do. We don't want to just go to work multiple jobs just to stay alive, just to eat disgusting food so we can have a beer on Friday night. And so we can like forget about our week and then replay that whole existence over and over and over again. We don't want to have to suck up to women who, a lot of them are not truth seekers. We don't want to have to sin, to start a family, which a lot of people have to do. And I'm not saying everybody, but we don't want that. Yeah, I tell you with 100% certainty, you're wrong about the virgin birth. You are wrong. It's just like you and I right now can, with certainty, tell people they're wrong about ball earth. They're wrong. Like the Bible supports it. Our senses support it. The experiments, math, science, physics supports it. Gravity is not real. We know we're not on a ball. We are living on a flat surface covered by a dome called the firmament. That's a fact. And another fact that we know now, based on the Spirit, is Jesus Christ, or who we call Yahushua, was born of a virgin. Flat Earth stuff, man. I just got to notice you subscribe. Welcome to the family. My channel is largely focused on end times. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but we see things being pieced together. Again, ETT and I have a little bit of a back and forth, but for the most part, we are assessing the sign of the times, which we are told to do. Jesus tells us, we see the seasons changing. We can predict the weather. We can, based on the wind and all that. And we see that the world, this pressurized dome that we live in, is becoming unlivable. God is cranking up the temperature, cranking up the hurricanes, the storms, the weather, the wind. He's cranking up everything, and he's making it unlivable. And he wants his children to cry out to him and say, we've had enough. We need mercy, and we want you to dwell with us. Yeah, it's good. I mean, honestly, ETT, I would, again, I'm not saying it's good to not, have truth, but I worry more about ball earthers than people who say that, Jesus was born of man and woman. But again, like, we have to be perfect like the Heavenly Father is perfect, pursue all truth. We know that the earth is flat. You and I agree on that. But again, some people once in a while email me, saying that they're Christian and they're not sure about the flat earth stuff. And I'm like, don't ask me. Don't even go to my videos. Don't even go to the YouTube land. Fast for a few days and ask God. Like, God is not, people think that God is some prick. No, if God made us, we are connected to him. He's not like a distant relative that doesn't want to talk to us. It's the very, very opposite. He wonders why we don't ask him questions. And he probably wonders why, more so now that we continue to want to be stupid. We can ask him questions. He can decide how and when he answers, but you can ask God, in my opinion, through prayer and fasting. Don't eat pork, maybe for those 5 days, whatever, 3 or 4 days, just don't eat anything unclean, and don't do anything sexually perverse, and forgive, and ask God, what is the shape of the earth that you made? Don't ask me, don't ask ETT, don't ask Eric Dubé, don't ask humans. Come to us for reaffirmation if you want, and say, I can tell you with my engineering background, with my 20 some years now, having some relationship with the Bible, and it's a flat earth book, and I feel it's been revealed to me by the God of the Bible, and as best as I know. And so that's where we are. Like I said in John 9, it's okay to leave it at that and allow God to make that into something more, but ask him. We are ultimately, in my opinion, going to return to God, the mind of God. And so, it doesn't hurt to ask. And the Bible says that even our earthly parents give good gifts and know, when you ask for something to give it. And our parents are evil relative to God. So God, why would God want to hide, if you ask him sincerely, what the shape of the earth is? Especially if you're fasting, praying, stay away from, abstain from sexual sin. If you're in a relationship, just don't have, sexual contact for that time, and forgive, cleanse your heart, and ask God, not just that, anything. Are we in the end times? I think that these kind of things he will be very happy to share what's appropriate. Because again, the issue with that too, that kind of truth is very much like a personal thing. And he also doesn't want to overwhelm us, because like I've said many times, if I learned flat earth as a young kid, I would not be alive right now. I wouldn't have made it through school, because I would just ask questions and I would question everything. And then I had friends who were Christian, and I would wonder, they're evil then, because they're refusing to believe that the earth is flat when it's obvious. And so I wouldn't have made it. So God will tell you things on his time and his way. But now in this age right now, where flat earth is out, way out in the open, I see no reason why he would not, fully convince you of whatever truth it is. And I believe it's flat. When I first found flat earth for 1 year, I would watch 10 hours a day worth of videos on the subject. And I've seen over, dude, that's, it's addictive, because the truth is that truth is so powerful, because we don't know the mark of the beast yet. We can't guarantee that, but the flat earth being true gives, to me, the Bible a 75% pat on the back for being true, because it's a major, like I said, pat on the back that is true. And then God exists. Some God exists if the earth is flat. To me, the God of the Bible gets the final stamp of approval if and only if the mark of the beast comes out and it's fulfilled exactly the way it's prophesied. Then there's no doubt the God of the Bible is the God of us. I respect Tahar for teaching me I'm an Israelite, but he's going way the hell off saying he is GMS 100 for truth. And when you correct them, and dude, you don't know that you're an Israelite. That's the whole point. You do not know that. And I think that that's okay, and again, that's why I brought up James earlier. That person doesn't know that he's an Israelite. He just told them what happened, that somebody came up and put mud in his face and he can see now. That's it. He called him a prophet, and so again, I'm not saying you're not or anything. I'm not trying to discourage you, but even me, we have to remind each other We don't know that we're quote unquote Israelites. And even if you aren't an Israelite, that doesn't mean that you're outside of God's fold. Like I've done a video recently on the centurion. That's a term, that's like a lineage that we can't trace back. And so to me, a person that is accepted by God is a truth seeker. They're compassionate. They want God to dwell with us. Fundamentally, it's nothing really deeper than that. If you want God to dwell with us and you want peace, you don't want any more judgment heaped over our own head or others, and we want peace. We want to learn. We want to be creative. We don't want homeless people. We don't want oppression and all that stuff. Wars, famines. We don't want that anymore. That is, to me, I would bank on that person. Not that I would do this financially, but that person is a child of God, and that's that person's spirit. And obviously, a person who hates this AI, this Internet of Things, this chip movement, and identifies what it is that it's anti-God. It's a control mechanism. It's a way to create mindless slaves to worship the head of God's left-hand side, Satan, and to not be free, to not be creative, to not be independent, to not have faith, all these things. So that's it. I laugh because some people who believe flat earth are atheists. How can earth be flat without being creative? Those are people that are gatekeepers. Like Eric Dubé is a flat earther, but he believes that Jesus doesn't exist, never existed. And so he's one of the people that have brought out flat earth. In my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, like this is not in the Bible, but to me, that is meant to humble God's children. God will use other people to bring out truth, to humble, for example, some of the Hebrews, who I believe some of them are truly, on God's right-hand side, but they didn't bring it out, and so God uses people outside of the fold to shame them. And to me, it's the same thing with a centurion. The centurion comes by, asks for one healing, and then Jesus turns and says, look at the great faith of the centurion. And then his disciples are probably like, what just happened here? The guy just comes and asks for one healing. All of a sudden he has great faith, and we've been following you around for months and months and months and years. And so God does this. If you don't like the fact that the God of the Bible shames people, me as well, throughout my life, it puts me in situations that I know I'll be embarrassed, when after my life is over, and I forget some of them, but he does that. He shames his children and embarrasses them so they can be humble, so we can be humble, and that is the only way that we can be acceptable to God, because we have no reason to be arrogant anyway. And Jesus Christ or Yahushua was humble, even though he could be arrogant about everything. And so there is a conditioning, a pruning going on. That's just my 2 cents. That's the way I see it. So he will use these quote unquote atheists to bring out truth, to remind us that we don't have 100% truth, and he will bring things out in his own way and in his own time. Like I said earlier, if I knew that the earth was flat at a young age, let's say I was the pioneer flat earther, at 15 years old, I wouldn't have made it for a few years. I mean, I'm living with my family who believes that we're on a ball. I go to school, we're on a ball. I go to church, we're on a ball. Everyone's on a ball except me. I mean, what do I talk about? Who do I talk to? It's like God has to use some atheist to bring it out, and again, I don't decide who's an atheist or who's not. I'm not going to that level. So, but, ETT brings up a good point about quote unquote atheists who are bringing out powerful truths like the earth is flat. If the earth is flat, why did God put so many clues that it is a ball? He's behind the deception. So Kizin, he's behind the deception. God is, and ETT probably has more of the verses on the tip of his tongue, but like God is the author of deception. He is, and it's just logical. It's like, it's common sense. If God exists, he is the author of deception, because you and I, none of us in this live stream, we didn't invent good and evil. We don't even know like what was going on before we were born. We didn't make ourselves. We didn't make the spirit world. We didn't make good, evil. We didn't make bombs. We didn't make a beast system. You and I didn't make a microchip. Some people are making it, like fabricating it, but they didn't come up with the idea to chip it. Rothschilds did not come up with the idea to chip anybody. God did. God is the author of deception. Everything that happens to us that we don't like, God did it. Jesus Christ died a grisly death on the cross because God orchestrated that death for all the reasons we don't know. We know some, you know, to bring his children back to him and to be a sacrifice, you know, for us, and to be, you know, an atonement for sin, all those things. But the full story we don't know. And so, you know, God is doing this, and, you know, he would have to, because who else could orchestrate these kind of evils except for him? Yeah, he is trying to trick people. So if you don't like that America's evil, if you don't like that Jesus is quote unquote black, if you don't like that the earth is flat, if you don't like that all these different truths that are now plainly obvious, pardon the pun, God's tricked you. If you like greed, if you like more money, if you want to stay here longer, God has tricked all of us. God has tricked us into believing that making more money, having as much sex with women as possible, you know, experiencing as many pleasures as you can, being an entrepreneur, like running businesses, having, you know, fancy cars. There was all times where we thought that that was virtuous and like a worthwhile endeavor. And so God tricked us. You know, he tricked me with the ball earth and a lot of people, but God tricked us. You know, give God credit where credit is due. God is not shy about the fact that he is the author of good and evil. The expression of good is in the person of Jesus Christ, and the full expression of evil is through Satan and the beast system that we live in right now, that in my opinion will ultimately microchip whoever is dumb enough to take it. Yeah, I think I would say, you know, ETT, I would say right now, flat earth is a very important truth for me personally. It's given me kind of more fuel to kind of keep this going and to share and give people hope. But to me, the most important truth of the Bible is that one sin equals all sin. That is a Christian. I would take a person, I would rather hang out with a baller who believes one sin equals all sin than a flat earther who doesn't want to talk about that, you know? And so let's be perfect. And again, like I said, take all the truth that we, you know, can, but one sin is all sin is the most important truth, quote unquote, truth in the Bible. I don't care. I would rather be a one sin equals all sin person and have that be deep in my spirit than be a person who, you know, knows, is an actual Israelite, you know, is a person who's like, can be proven that I was like, you know, Jesus is like a descendant or whatever. I would, you know, and that person doesn't want to talk about it or doesn't live that. I don't want to be that person. You know, I will take my chances being a person who really truly believes and lives out that one sin means that I'm guilty of all of them, and tries to like live with that kind of humility over a person who is absolutely certainly one of the 12 tribes. You know, I'll just take my chances with that. So to me, that's the most important truth. Spiritually, that's the most important truth. And I feel like people who do that, God is more inclined to reveal more. Conspiracy Cats, what's up, man? We got somebody here maybe can help us explain gravity. We know it's false, man. We know that you guys are just gatekeepers, man. So it's just putting you guys on notice. You know, the end is nigh. I'm good, man. I'm all right. Played golf this weekend. You know, my score played pretty well. So golf kind of, depending on how I play, it puts me in a certain mood, but I played pretty well. So, okay. So ETT is asking for 2 Thessalonians 2:11. 2 Thessalonians 2:11. Therefore, God sends them strong delusion so that they may believe what is false. Yeah, that's perfect, man. That's exactly it. And so, you know, conspiracy cats and all these other people, you know, we don't decide what happens to anybody when they're um, when they die. But we, we believe that anybody who's a ball earther and stays that way, God is using them and has sent them a strong delusion that they're believing what's false. And then the strongest delusion that people will believe is that some people will believe is that this microchip, if it comes out, if you take that, that's a faithful thing to do, that's a good idea, and it's not. If the government forces you to put anything in your body, do not do it. So conspiracy cats, dude, just a question, man. What do you think about like the afterlife, dude? And I'm curious to ask people who are on that line of thinking, like, what do they think happens when they die? What do they want to happen? What do you want to happen when you pass away? ETT, stop with that descriptor stuff, man. That's ridiculous. You don't know the scriptures either, man. You think that Jesus was born of a man and a woman. Yeah, I mean, I heard Sleeping Warrior talk a little bit about whether he thinks that you sincerely believe the earth is a ball, or you actually know that it's flat, but you're pushing the ball. We don't know other people's intentions. So ultimately, in my opinion, I think there's going to be a lot of people, no matter what their quote unquote faith background is, their faith will be decided if the mark of the beast comes out. And then people are faced with that decision. But, to me, if you're a person who supports the government and their initiatives, when it's blatantly obvious that the government worldwide is purely instituting policies to further enslave humanity, that's you kind of deserve everything that's coming for you, and may God not have any of us be that stupid. But yeah, ETT, stop with that descriptor stuff, man. That's not what we're trying to do here. Jesus Christ or Yahushua could have flexed on people every single interaction. He could have stunted on anybody. He could have made gold appear right in front of people. He could have called them out for how stupid they are. He could have said this and that. He could have called everybody a whore, a slut. He could have called out everybody's history right in front of everybody else and embarrassed everybody publicly. He could have done all these things, and in fact, he was the complete opposite of that. He didn't flex on people, and he could have, very, very easily. And so that is our example. And again, we always have this tendency to try and one-up people, in particular in the ball earth, flat earth debate. But, there's nothing to one-up. Either God exists or he doesn't. In my opinion, now it's becoming very, very obvious that he does. Atheism is dying a swift death. And so now we have to deal with the fact that an entity has the creative ability, the creative thoughts, and then the power to create an earth, a platform, and put people on it, and dictate the outcome of a narrative somehow. That's who we're dealing with here. And so we're never going to one up that entity ever. So that only that entity knows the scriptures, as you would say. You don't know the scriptures. I don't. We know some, but only that entity knows them, because ultimately that entity, the scriptures are the very mind of God. They are the word of God. And the only person that knows the truth fully is the truth itself. Okay, I'll hold that back, but I'm having some fun. Let's not forget. Yeah, it's fine. Just Kazin has been fine. He's just been asking good questions. It's fine. That's this, I suspect, this channel is mostly just kind of brainstorming. People can ask very whatever they want about, if I'm preaching end times, that pretty much leaves every topic open. I'll speak openly about life, death. We spoke about suicide earlier. I have no, there's no barriers or boundaries around which things that I will discuss. Oh, sorry, Xavier, what's up, man? During a sunset, why do you see the sun as a semicircle moving behind the horizon? If it's in the sky, why do we literally see the ground obstructing our view? I mean, that's something that you should just ask yourself, man. I think that you know, if you have like modeling software and stuff, just, you know, do it on both scenarios, man, and like put something up, you know, like post a video or do whatever you want. We don't have the answers. I know that the earth is flat because gravity's not real. And I posted a video, an experiment or test that I would need to see to have it be proven. And I know that a level does not move when it's across a level surface. I know that. Like, yeah, I'll have faith in that. You guys can say I have faith in the flat earth, and I'm a religious zealot because I believe that a level will stay level across a flat surface for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. That's, yeah, you can accuse me of that and make fun of me and say that I'm a dumb engineer or I don't know how a level works or whatever. That's fine. Honestly, the more you guys make fun of us, the more we know that we're onto something. So keep it coming. But if I'm being ridiculed for believing that a level stays level on a flat surface and you guys think a level stays level on an oblate spheroid, I mean, there's probably other channels that will be better use of your time. Because like I said, me and the handful of people that sort of follow me close are, we believe not just that we're in the end times, we believe America's Babylon and it's slated for nuclear destruction. We believe a chip is coming out that's going to be forced on everybody worldwide. We believe Jesus is a dark-skinned man. And the so-called Negroes in America who are being embarrassed and shamed that they are actually God's chosen. Many of them are God's chosen people. So you're on a channel that's like, you know, way away from anything that you would probably ever be able to even digest. And I'm not even saying that to be rude. But do your thought experiments on a flat surface and let us know. You know, if you're not exploring our what our reality is and then doing modeling and asking us for the answers. I mean, we know that we're on a flat surface because our senses tell us that, and we're going to first principles. I'm going to take the Bible over random trolls on the internet and other people on the internet who don't even want to talk about the evils in the world that are obvious. You know, it's like, it's not even like an issue. It's not even a competition. Like, you're making it easy for me. I have no choice but to be a flat earther, but I'm obviously a very happy one. But, you know, just work it. If you want to, if you genuinely are asking and you want to go through it with rigor because you're dealing with an engineer, no, we're not going to go in Microsoft Paint and zoom into it. No, we're talking about like serious stuff, man. Like, what are you talking about? Negatorex, what's up, man? ETT saying, Xavier, my friend, you had a question, but now it's my turn. My question is, how can water bend? Can you give me a way to do an experiment to see if it's true? Relying on your senses. No, I know radio waves exist because I use my cell phone regularly, man. Like, that's, again, your analogies, you have to understand, we're waking up, man. The analogies are poor. Our eyes can't be trusted because we can't distinguish certain colors and all that. These are not one-to-one comparisons, and moon bounce, that's pathetic. You know, like, we know all this stuff, man. Like, we're into the math, and you know, we're capable. And a lot of the stuff that the astrophysicists, the quote unquote physicists, they're talking about stuff that are like fairy tales anyway. You know, we can't touch it and feel it, so we dismiss all of it, even if some of it has merit. So we want off the shelf proofs, linear stuff, repeatable, observable. Like, yeah, ETT saying, show us water bend. We're not into your math. Negatorex. Yeah, we're not into that math that says that you can have two forces that occupy the same space and don't interact. We're not into that kind of math. I'm into real math. Like, how do you express that mathematically? How do you express that orthogonality mathematically? I'm doing your work for you. We're into real mathematics, not my brother's cousin, uncle's grandfather you know, told me this kind of stuff. You know, again, the Bible is at stake here, man. We know the Bible is true because the Bible is showing itself to be true every day. It's showing coordinated deception. It's showing Big Brother surveillance state taking peering into our lives more and more and more and more. No, your math didn't design our house, man. I live in an apartment building. I live in a high rise, and it's not tilting. It's not tilting, my friend. You know, there's no force that's keeping the building down and then keeping it supported sideways. Look up the old Comedy Central logo with all the buildings tilting on a ball. Like it's mockery. And Comedy Central's CC33 as well. Conspiracy Cats CC33. We're on to you guys, man. Like, we know we're at the end. No, your math doesn't work. Tell me how two forces occupying the same space don't interact. Write that down. Show me a free body diagram explaining how water maintains curve. Draw an actual free body diagram and post a video and watch us absolutely annihilate that video. Like, it'll be like laughable. Show us two forces, two gravity vectors occupying the same space and not constructively or destructively interfering. Yeah, I don't understand it. That's why I know it's not true. That's that's the whole point. You absolutely. I know that gravity is not true because not only do I not understand it, your deacon and elder Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't answer it. If it could be explained mathematically with a free body diagram, there would be no issues with it. You wouldn't have to you wouldn't have to state what the cause is. That's fine, but because we don't know the cause of mass. But if you could explain it mathematically with a free body diagram, there would be no debate. You know, gravity would, in the very least, be able to be modeled, and it can't. You know, it can't be modeled. It's not real. We live on a flat surface, man, covered by a dome. It's finite, and then beyond that is essentially the spirit world. Where water droplets are around, and like I said, zooming in, we're asking for bendy water. A water droplet can also be, you know, temporarily flat if it's squished. So it's like that's the fact again that you're using examples like that proves that the Earth is flat. Yeah, ETT, your question, the way they would say that is the atmosphere is moving as well. So somehow it's like Velcroed to the Earth or whatever. So everything's spinning. Everything's all about spinning. Again, you and I know that the only reason that it's a ball, oblate ball spinning is because every feature of that goes against the Bible. And again, God has set up people who are anti-Christ, against Christ, literally in his generation, who killed him physically. And so God has set up a world right now that is against the Bible, and he's done it on purpose. And we hope it ends soon. And then we hope that he can explain to us why we were made. Most people get angry at things they don't know. We're not angry, dude. We know the Earth is flat, man. Like, it's preposterous. Like, you just got to look up, look outside. We're not moving. The sun and the moon are moving. We don't know their exact path. We can't map it out, but we know that we're not spinning and the sun is staying, you know, in its position. We know that that's not true. It's obvious. The sun and the moon are moving. Anybody with common sense just looking up will know that. Yeah, Xavier, I mean, if you are convinced you're on a globe and you've done enough rigorous experiments in your own mind, you know, then so be it. You know, that's enjoy it. You know, and again, if the mark of the beast does not come out and is not forced upon people, I honestly don't care what the shape of the Earth is, because the God of the Bible is not true, and then we don't really have a narrative for our existence. And so the next best thing is, who cares? Honestly, for me personally, like, I'm not going to become a Muslim or a Jew or an atheist. I don't know. Like, whatever. I honestly don't care at that point. The Bible right now is making very, very bold predictions and giving us a narrative for the evil in the world. And I'm following it very, very intently, and I will not give it the final stamp of approval as being true, or no one should, until the mark of the beast is implemented worldwide. Yeah, I mean the ball earth, people who understand the book of Revelation know that it's necessary for the end times, because God has to remove himself from the earth in order for the mark of the beast to be implemented, because it's an atheist agenda. It's a non-God agenda at its core, because it's replacing God, it's replacing faith, it's replacing compassion, human interaction with artificial intelligence. Man, I was watching a video on LinkedIn of this kid who's like 13 years old, this Indian kid who apparently Google just hired to work. And the guy literally sounds like a robot. He's like, this guy literally sounds like a zombie, like a non-human, like just robot, and they're like, young kids are now pushing this AI, Internet of Things, we're all connected religion. And so God is using God is putting his foot on the gas for this agenda, and it is a control agenda. It is a replace faith with obedience, and create as many mindless follower zombies as humanly possible. Where the God of the Bible, even though it doesn't seem like it, because he's orchestrating the evil, he is a person who exalts faith, compassion, creativity, love, mercy, charity, etc. Objects shrink and converge with the horizon as they get further. Why do you see the sun behind the crown and not shrink until it's no longer visible? I mean, that's cool, man. If, like, again, I'm telling you that if those are good for you, that's obviously not proof. Let's just say that whatever you just said is true and is more indicative of a ball earth. That's not rigorous. If you're trying to get at a proof, something that will the entire world would accept as rigorous and unique, and all that. Look at the video I made on a unique solution to this debate, which I would say neither side has really sort of provided, but there's much more evidence, concrete evidence towards the flat earth, and the Bible just helps, and the Quran helps. And so all these people in the past, you can believe that they didn't know or care what the shape of the earth was, but that's a conspiracy theory in and of itself, that these Freemasons and crypto Jews and the Catholic Church and all these different people, that they're the real smart ones. If you want to believe that, man, go for it. That's up to you. But that's a big stretch. So yeah, like rigorous, unique, all these different mathematical concepts are known now to both sides, and that's what we're looking for. And so there's you can use things related to the sun and the moon and all that. I'm not denying that, but you're talking about a multivariable thing now, because you have to then rigorously prove the size of those things, and then their motions can then maybe infer information, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's many variables at stake here. And if you're just thinking that we're at the point and we're gullible enough to dismiss the entire Bible, or if you're a person who follows the Quran, or a Jew who acknowledges Genesis, and we're going to throw away two great lights under the firmament because a random troll came onto our live stream and said objects shrink and converge with the horizon as they get further away, blah, blah, blah. And I don't even know if I clicked on your channel, I'm assuming I'll find how many subscribers. And let's see, 0 subs and no videos. Yeah, 0 subs, and this channel doesn't have any content. So big surprise. And then even worse, your name, Xavier Gervais, is X is a 6, and then G is 33 added together is a 6, and your name is a 66 name. So, and then Conspiracy Cats comes by sometimes, and he has a 33 name, CC, And Baldy Cats is also a 33 name. BC is 2-3 or 2 3s, which is 33. So, I mean, like at least don't use Masonic names when you come into our live stream, because we've been trained by the best. Shout out to Russian Vids. And I hope that Russian Vid starts pushing the chip on his channel, because Call for an Uprising does. GMS does it well. ETT does it well. I do as much as I can. So in the very least, all we can do is warn people. If it's in a different generation, so be it. We got a little overzealous. Or if it doesn't happen, at least we warned you. It's a bad development no matter what. But if it is happening, we're expending resources to warn people. Yeah, ETT. Just remember, dude. Yeah, your name Xavier Gervais. Just so you know, like the nomenclature, the numerology. X is a 6 in. I think it's Pythagorean numerology, because Fox News, FOX News is 666. And so X is a 6, like triple X porn, XXX is 666, and Gervais is 33. It's a symbol for the letter for Freemasonry. It's G. If you wrap the alphabet around again, the G will be the 33rd letter. And then and again, 33 added together is 6. And so this is the way Freemasons work. And so your name, when I see it, again, I don't know, because I know nothing about your channel and what you stand for, but your name is 66. Yeah, the chip is like mainstream now. Like Zero Hedge is reporting on it, which is a mainstream financial, like it's still an alternative truth sort of, a truth channel or a truth like website, financial truth, off the mainstream. But I've heard MSNBC and other financial commentary reference Zero Hedge. And so that's yeah, the chip is mainstream now. It's like it's literally everywhere. And again, I think it's just an amazing time that we live in now, that that the Bible could really like be true, and it's scary for even people like and I'm assuming, I don't want to put words in ETT's mouth, but other people who are Christian, it's scary for us too to know that the Bible's true, because the Bible's true. That there is a God, and in fact, the God is the one who is speaking to us through the Bible, and this chip is happening. And there are a lot of people on earth that are evil that are going to be implementing it. And all the destruction and the bloodshed that's prophesied is actually going to happen, whether we like it or not. Yeah, Kizin, the numerology is not for everybody, but, we pay attention to it. It's so obvious, though, like Colin Kaepernick, for example. I was reading an article about him before, and his name is CK. So C is 3 and then K is 11. So he has a 33 name. And so it's all over the place. Like there's like tons and tons and tons of examples that, again, Russian Vids brings out the best. Yeah, we're open to debate. I guess the only thing that I'm looking for now are linear, repeatable, and observable things. I don't want to hear about little stories and little how do you explain this on a flat Earth. You explain it or don't explain it. It's just go and model it. We know that we're on a flat surface with the sun and the moon above us, and we're under a dome. It's finite. You can't just go forever in the sky, forever and forever and forever. So yeah, your name, I mean, for example, like the KKK is like 11, 11, 11, like Kim, Chloe, and Courtney, who are absolute certain, pretty much with certainty, their family are Masons. They're all, that KKK is 11, 11, 11, 33. And so the Ku Klux Klan is 33. They're all Masons. They're all people who are part of God's left-hand side, and God has given us the courtesy of labeling them so we know for sure. So I wouldn't use names like KK or Xavier Gervais and stuff like that. Again, it's if that's your name, that's your name. It doesn't matter. But again, we have a heightened awareness. I mean, Fight the Flat Earth is Craig McNeil. That's CM. That's 33. There's, it's like everywhere. Like it's just God is doing this as a form of mercy towards us to let us know, or at least give us some clue as to like who's behind the deception and who's not. But you don't even need those names. It's like if we debate about flat Earth, ball Earth, but you never want to talk about the evils in the world, like the evils of central banking or the oppression of the young people and just people in the inner cities and all that, and just no one's helping them. We're building all these walls and stuff, but the money's not going to the poor. I mean, you got to just walk outside downtown Houston for a few minutes and see, lots and lots of homeless people. No one's, lobbying for them. And so, it's obvious. So we know that people like that are just gatekeepers, man. Like it's not even, it's not hard anymore. You guys, the world is so stupid and there's so much evil that doesn't make sense. It's very easy to like be a truther now, because once you care even a little bit about the truth, it's very easy which side you fall on. First, you have to fall on the evils of central banking. That's obvious. And then, the enslavement, even if you have a job, and not very many people do, you can see that the economies suck. So you got to fall on that side, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, it's like you only need a few steps to be able to figure out that, the chip is the only sort of last expression of all this Big Brother stuff. Yeah, ETT, the GMS and those Hebrews, a lot of the leaders are Masons. I think that the way I think that is what's happening is God is using that as like a filter. People are going to go through that and be deceived by them for a while. I was for a brief moment. And then they're going to come out of that with all their, perversions and ball Earth and their wayward teachings and all that. So I think God is using that as like a filter / training ground. Jordan Baxter, what's up, man? Much better. Yes, I do know about fractional reserve banking and the Rothschilds, and it's that is the fundamental. It's like taking real money, hard-earned money that we all have, and then putting a multiplier on it and expanding the credit supply. That's one evil, one ding. And then another ding is then charging interest on money that's not even yours. That's not even real money. That's the second major ding. And that's the knockout blow for the Rothschilds and all the others who are involved in that form of banking and stealing is what it is. You're essentially taking other people's money, using it as leverage, and then lending that out to other people and charging interest on it, on money that you have not earned. And so that is why a lot of those Jews are referred to as in the Bible as the synagogue of Satan. All right, man, that was a longer live stream than I thought. So I don't know if anybody has any sort of last second questions or anything. I appreciate people who stop by and all that. Dude, get out of that ball Earth stuff, man. It's like, it's just a waste of time. It's stale water. It's like not bearing any fruit. It's a lie. It's not true. If it's hard for you to believe that a spirit created all of this, all of us and all that, just, it's hard for us too, don't think that it's easy for us to wrap our head around. We're just like you, man. We're flesh and bones and have limitations and all that. But the God of the Bible is looking real good these days, purely from a probabilistic point of view. The Bible is looking pretty spot on. 666, 33 everywhere. America being the the epicenter of evil. The mark of the beast in pretty much the mainstream outlets everywhere. Yeah, I mean, keep that stance, but Jordan, be aware of what those religions preach. If Islam makes a major prophecy that it says will happen and it doesn't, then dismiss it. If the Bible makes a claim about something that's supposed to happen and it doesn't, then dismiss it. But if it makes a claim about something that is going to happen and it does happen, you don't have the luxury of being neutral anymore. You can enjoy that now if you want, and we all are to some extent, because people who follow the Bible, we have to have faith. We don't know that the Bible from end to end is true yet. And again, if the mark of the beast does not happen, the Bible might have virtuous things in it, but it's not true, 100% true. And Jesus even says that he comes in the volume of the book. The whole book is written for him, about him, and all that. And so you could dismiss Jesus then. But if the Bible is true, and the mark of the beast does come out, and you take it thinking that your neutral God is okay with it, that's one thing. But then you also don't want to teach other people to do it, because I suspect that there's even more punishment for people like that. And the whole development of it right now, the whole replacing humans with robots is very, very obvious. And the world is becoming unlivable. No one wants to live here. They're a number when they go to work. They're just a KPI, a productivity metric. They're just an expense line item for their salary. They're a number. We're all nobodies, and I mean even the CEOs. So how much longer could this go on with even one righteous person on earth? No one would want to be here. We're tired of exam after an exam after an exam of learning, being questioned on what we learn, but no one's really teaching us anything. No one's giving us intuition. No one's giving us freedom to ask questions. And we're not even free to talk about God in places of worship, like churches, mosques, and synagogues. So we're tired of this place. I suspect the 144,000 are extremely tired of this place and are realizing now that you cannot be righteous and have your feet planted on flat earth. And so in my opinion, for the Bible to be true, that is the strongest point, that the end is very, very close. And the mark of the beast just adds to that. And then the flat earth is, the icing on the cake. Yeah, the ball earth model, God gave you a few things, and he made things that make it work, because again, he's behind the deception. But he's also merciful in letting us know in other places in the Bible that not only did he do the deception, but he's given us many, many verses to remind us that the earth that he made is flat and motionless, and covered by a dome called the firmament. So there is no infinity. You can't just like shoot up into space and go forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and just nothing stops you. No, there is a limit. God has set limits on the universe. Yeah, we don't know the exact way that he made everything. Obviously, no, we weren't there, so that's he could have made it in any way. That there's no point in speculating that, because no one would be able to prove it. Yeah, good. That's a good point that we can end on. Jordan Baxter, who says that he doesn't base his rationale on the Bible, but observations through senses and technology. So here we go. I'll challenge your senses that we all know now that we're not spinning. So your senses should tell you that by default we're actually not moving, and that just common sense should tell you that there's no such thing as infinity. You can't just keep going on forever and ever. And then if you also base your rationale on technology, you should be very aware of the fact that the mark of the beast is a technology that's out there and right at our doorstep. And if the government forces you to insert that technology into your body, only a faithless degenerate would do that. And I don't want to be around you and other people like you, to be totally honest. And so even the development of it, you should be calling it out as unnecessary and evil and all that. I suspect you wouldn't, but you should. Yeah, but this technology, I'm not forcing upon anybody. No one has to come to this live stream. No one has to write an exam after this live stream. No one has to, YouTube doesn't even have to keep the live stream up. They're censoring it as well. And so it's, again, ultimately God doing this. So, but I'm not forcing this technology upon anybody, and I never will. And God does not force his presence on anybody else either. If you don't want to be around him and you want to stay on this earth with a chip in your body and bend over for your corporate masters, God's going to be like, yeah, so be it. Yeah, if you don't want to acknowledge that God made all this, then he's going to hand you over to your gods, the God of technology. So, he's going to let you have at it with them. And you're going to find out at that point, if that happens, how much your government really cares about you, which God has instituted and filled with incredibly evil people. No, it's not the Hubble thing that's forcing. It's the mark of the beast. I'm talking about the mark of the beast. That is a prophecy the Bible makes where technology is going to be forced into people's body. And to me, you don't even have to be religious to know that that's evil. All right, all. I'm going to call it at that. Yeah, EGT, it's definitely fake, man. So I'm going to cancel that. I'll just call the live stream there. So yeah, vaccinations are another anti-God agenda, but ultimately God is doing this. He's making the earth unlivable, in my opinion, for his children to cry out for him to rescue us. And that's one of the many, many, many evils that are out there. But the Bible does state that the mark of the beast will be the last one. God will not teach people war in the kingdom of heaven. There will be no more famine, no more pain, no more crying, no more stupidity, no more delusions and lies that he spreads to condition his children to love truth. And the ultimate truth is Jesus Christ, or the person that we call Yahushua, who is the dark-skinned Messiah. So ETT, your homework, man, is to figure out that Jesus was virgin born. Very, very obvious. And we'll talk soon. And yeah, we reject things. I reject things, proofs that are not, linear, repeatable, and observable. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.